Hey guys, welcome to the Parks Gore podcast. My name is Parks
Gore. My name's
Gore.
Kason.
Yeah, this
Gore.
is my brother Kason. On this podcast, we pretty much just talk into everybody and anybody. No, really, actually, I'm kind of just using this podcast as a medium to talk to whoever I want about whatever I want. Right now, in my life, I'm working as a videographer, and my brother and I have taken up a creative challenge where in the next 6 months we're going to be forced to create some
Once a week, you
yeah,
got to create something.
once a week we have to create a piece of work. So Kason, you want to tell them a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so the whole kind of idea is we have these projects or these hobbies that we kind of bounce around, and this kind of craft we like to work on or like to say that we're interested in. But after graduating college, I have a lot of free time, so what better time than now to really start working on this. And my personal challenge is creating music, writing a song. And I've been playing music for about 2 years now.
So for this challenge, what we've done is we've decided every single week I'm going to be obligated to produce one newsletter. Kason's going to be obligated to produce one song. And if we fail to, publish on time, that's $20 out of our pocket. So let's say I fail to write a newsletter in time, that's $20 that I have to give up. And the money can go to anyone, but long story short, what we're kind of doing is we're setting stakes. We're setting stakes for like failing to, produce like on the projects that we have kind of set for ourselves. And I'm not gonna lie, if I wouldn't have set the stakes of like losing money, I probably would have given up on it by week 2. But yeah, so kind of, I would say that's the benefit of having Kason. That's the benefit of having any kind of like friend in a creative project that you're doing is people who can hold you accountable, and also people who know what you are sort of capable of producing, and just like setting stakes for yourself. So,
but I thought it's interesting because I've been playing music for about 2 years now, and maybe I'll learn a song, or with the help of a friend I'll maybe write a song. But I never by myself sat down and really wrote a song. So it's kind of forcing me to really work on that craft, and from beginning to the end, maybe I think of a riff or I think of a cool little lyric, but this is forcing me to, okay, that riff, you got to have a lyric to it, and you've also got to record it, and you also got to produce it now. And so not only is it making me finish songs that I'm starting, it's making me work on writing music, writing lyrics that maybe I've never wrote before, because I'm not a huge writer, and writing lyrics is a hard thing to do personally. And then also even just recording music, something that I'm not super interested in. It's forcing me to get into that and kind of experience the recording process. And I think that's one of the most interesting parts is there's these aspects of as far as songwriting goes that I don't even really pay attention to, that I'm now having to dedicate a decent amount of time to every day. And for the first week, so to start, let's tell them, just go about week by week. We're on week 2 now coming up. We've gotta present our piece every Sunday. But we started with an infrastructure week. So
kind of what it was is we gave ourselves 1 week to prepare. If you're making something or you're planning on making something, one of the biggest pitfalls is getting caught in the research phase. And what I like to kind of do for myself, and what I kind of like to suggest to other creators, is give yourself as little time as possible to prepare. Obviously, don't set yourself up for failure, but understand that if you are constantly giving yourself more time, oh my God, we almost got hit by a car. if you're giving yourself more time than is absolutely necessary to get something done, you are going to procrastinate on it. You are going to let it fall to the wayside, and you're going to get caught in analysis paralysis. So we had 1 week to set things up. What was that? For me, it was setting up a website that could take in people's emails. And, piggybacking off of what Kason said with his project. So his whole thing was he wanted to get better at songwriting. What better way to do that than to start writing songs? For me, it was that I've been trying to publish my work online for a while now. I've been trying to grow an online brand and sort of like kind of just be like an online entrepreneur. And one thing that I thought that I would benefit from is forcing myself to develop my ideas in a long form format. And I think the newsletter is perfect for that, because every week I'm kind of being forced to refine my ideas, put them into some kind of digestible form. And also, the cool thing about the newsletter that I kind of figured out is if I just put all my focus into that, it sort of is like a cornerstone piece of content where I'm refining my ideas and my philosophy in this long form piece. And but then also people are saying what's up to
They're
us.
big fans of the podcast.
Hey, I'm gonna go ahead and say this right now, guys. It's like really embarrassing to make things publicly when you first start out, but if you can kind of find a way to force yourself to get over that discomfort and get over the nervousness of like putting your ideas out there.
Look, this is that. Okay, so I'm glad you brought that up, because a big thing that I'm kind of been, I don't want to say struggling with, but one of the biggest challenge about writing music and just creating art in general is there's a Quentin Tarantino quote where he talks about like a good movie, and this just kind of goes for every art, but it should be almost embarrassing because it's so
Because it's so personal.
Right. And so not even, with the first week, I think that my idea was I just want to get lyrics down. I've never written lyrics before. I don't care if this reflects, how I feel, or if this is a super profound message. I just want to get some lyrics down, right? And they are embarrassing because it's these ideas, and even if it's these ideas that maybe you don't hold too dearly, it's still ideas that you came up with. But I think that is one reason maybe why I have been hesitant in the past to write an actual song, is because I would think, man, this sounds lame, or somebody's gonna think it's lame. Maybe I should, I'll just do I'll do a riff instead. I won't write on it, and then nothing would really come of it. But really forcing yourself to put down your idea and make it public, and knowing, because I know for sure at the end of the week I'm at least gonna have to show Parks. There's at least one person that I'm gonna have to show, and then I have a few friends, a few other creators who I'm like, I want to get their opinion on it, because even if they're not musicians or whatever, I want to see their reaction. And it starts to, once you put that kind of embarrassment aside, it's very fun. And I had a lot of anxiety going into the first week, because it was oh man, what are people gonna say? What are people gonna say? But it ended up, I got a pretty positive reaction from everyone I showed this song to, and maybe it was not even necessarily, oh, it was a good song. Maybe they were just being friendly and said it was good. But I had a lot more fun. I had a lot more fun writing and recording the second song, because I already had that anxiety out of the way, and everybody already knows I'm writing these songs, and I already showed somebody my song, so it doesn't really matter if they think it sucks or but just kind of putting yourself out there. And I mean, it is embarrassing, but it also results in a lot of beautiful things.
It results in growth, because you need to go ahead and get that first iteration of whatever you're building out so you can get perspective. You got to experiment, and you got to actually concretize things. Like, you can't always just be in the planning process, and you have to be willing to make some rough drafts, and not only that, but to publish some rough drafts. And with this whole sort of thing, like you take these you're always easier on yourself than the world is on your ideas. So for me, whenever I'm being forced to write in the long form, when I'm being forced to write in the long form, I have to explain certain ideas and make them digestible to someone other than myself. And like doing this kind of allows me to gain some perspective and see the ways that I was kind of taking uh, certain liberties with my own logic. And I'm being forced to explain these ideas to myself to develop them more fully. But enough of this challenge. You guys didn't tune in here to hear about this challenge. You guys tuned in here to figure out the winning lotto ticket numbers for the month of July. So here they are.
23, 42,
Um,
16.
so let's get on a different topic. Let's just this is a podcast, and what are podcasts for if not saying hot takes that are going to resurface years later and like totally ruin professional opportunities. So, Kason, what's like a hot take that you have? Let's go
Hot
ahead and just like
take
say
that I
something really
have.
ignorant and uninformed right now.
Hot take that I have. Yeah, I think that the kind of the whole small ball lineup in the NBA, that kind of revolution that happened in late 2019 was doomed to fail in the end. And also, I think 5-string bases are lame.
Well, that's probably because you're intimidated by them or something like that.
Yeah, no, it
people
is.
tend to. Hey, but
No, well, look,
I am glad.
this is what it is.
I,
It's 5-string bases. You got to be really smart. That's another string you gotta think about, right? I don't want to do that. That's lame. I just got these 4-string. Dude. I can barely take care of the top 2 strings.
So okay, wait. Actually, on the topic of sports, I want to kind of dive into something really quick. I have never in my entire life.
Whoa.
Sorry, I have never in my entire life been able to understand like the hype behind sports. I'm not dogging anyone who is.
Mm-hmm.
And right here today, I have the privilege of being with someone who is
Big
very into sports.
Sports enjoyer.
Can you like break down for me what exactly is it about sports that's like so enthralling to like the average consumer?
I really don't know. It depends. It depends a lot because I think on the surface level, I think it's a geography thing. I think people are very proud of, a lot of people are very proud of where they're from, and they take sort of a unique pride and feel like their city and where, their location makes them unique. So the NFL is almost, or, NFL sports, NBA, whatever, is sort of a representation of that, where you have these teams from these cities that they compete with other cities, and even for sports and like without sports, there's, if you look at like Houston or Dallas, if you talk to somebody from Houston and you say you're from Dallas, they might be very, very welcoming, right? But there is going to be sort of a kind of unspoken thing where it's maybe the Houston person thinks Houston is a better city than Dallas. Dallas thinks, vice versa. I think another thing too is I think on the surface level, it is the highest of class of athletes playing this kind of organized. It's almost like an organized battle in a way. These two people trying to achieve this thing, and it's a struggle. It's a constant struggle throughout the whole thing. And I think that people, quite frankly, who say that the only interesting part of an NBA game is the last 2 minutes are wrong. Because the NBA is not about the last 2 minutes. The NBA is about going down and getting a bucket and then seeing how your opponent is going to answer, right?
So from my perspective, and I'm not saying that this perspective is better than any other perspective.
I think I don't want to stroke my own ego too much here, but I think that my stance was, I understand people who think it's very stupid, because a lot of times I do look
I
at
don't think
sports
it's
media and
stupid.
some sports and think like, why? Not maybe not stupid, but I do think like, man, why do I care about this?
Well, that's what I was going to get at is, to me, it just kind of feels like I'm watching like a random number generator. Like, it's hard for me to see the meaning
Yeah.
of it all. I don't know. I think it's the same reason that I can't really vibe with a game like Fortnite or any of those like
Mm-hmm.
battle royale games where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, you have this you have a season or you have a round, and at the end of it all, the slate is completely wiped clean, and you just restart from scratch. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Like, that has an appeal for whatever reason, but something about it to me just, I don't know. It's just it's difficult for me to connect with it. And
So I think that I don't speak for everyone when it comes to sports, but as far as when I get the most enjoyment out of sports is usually the team I watch the most is the Las Vegas Raiders, right? And I follow with the headlines and all this, all the stories and stuff throughout the season. But it's interesting to see the whole kind of dichotomy of this organization working together, how the team, like the team's chemistry, how the coach is like affecting that, right? Because it's a chess match. It's not just, when I was younger, I thought, okay, you get the best players, you just stack your team with the best players, and coach doesn't really matter. And if you have just really good players, you're just going to win every game and you'll win the Super Bowl eventually. But that's not true. It's scheme, and it's a chess match. It's outsmarting the other,
And so, can I ask you a question about some other aspect of sports that
Yeah,
I?
yeah.
Okay, so one thing that I have noticed, one thing that I have seen firsthand, like on many occasions, is that, so they've done a study, and they've shown that there's like a marked difference in the testosterone levels of men
Yeah.
before and after the outcome of their
Mm-hmm.
like team's game.
Right.
So breaking this down for people who might not know what I'm talking about, like when your team loses, you experience an actual, real, measurable drop in testosterone, as if you personally suffered a loss.
Mm-hmm.
And the reverse is also true. Um, like if your team experiences a win, you also
Well,
experience a boost. And real quick, I want to get back to you, but like the other day I saw this firsthand where I was in this Zoom meeting, and this guy, uh, people were asking, hey, so what's something that happened in your personal life? What was like a personal win you had recently? And this guy, you will never believe what this guy said. He said, oh, well, my team, the such and such, I forget the name of the team, but
yeah.
he said, oh, my team, they won the other day, and I'm not gonna lie, it was like I won. Like, I'm riding that high still. And I was
Yeah.
like, you have your own life. Like, you have actual stuff going on in your life. And so to me, it's almost like video games. It's like I'm
Yeah.
outsourcing this actual real dopamine for
Well,
some like
okay.
simulated
So
victory.
I will say that's another thing too, is I am very invested in sports. I'm a sports enjoyer, right?
Yeah.
But I think the important thing is, because I felt that too. I felt that crushing feeling after a loss, right? But I think the biggest thing is you got to understand, I have zero impact at all on whether they win or lose. Me knowing every player's number and name has zero impact on it, how good we are going to be, right? So it really doesn't matter if this team wins or loses. So I think that's one thing, is you guys gotta remember, this is a freaking game. You can feel good about it. I think you know, if you take enjoyment out of it, cool. But if you are feeling a physical loss, or
Like, it's affecting you
a
personally.
tank in your testosterone, that is a problem. That is a problem. But I think it also speaks to the fact of, I was kind of getting at this theory earlier of, it's like a tribe. It's like the Houston Texans are not just the Houston Texans. They represent the greater Houston area, and a lot of people resonate with that team and feel like they are an embodiment of the city of Houston, right? So similar to how you know, it's like imagine if your tribe just now suffered a great loss. You're you lost some men in the battle. Your home and your settlement back home would feel that same loss, and they would feel demoralized. And so I think our bodies have not forgotten that kind of ancestral pattern of when strong men lose, I feel bad, you know. So when strong men lose on the team, when JJ Watt sucks and he's sucking air for an hour during the game, 0 sacks, just taking up space on the Arizona Cardinals defense, right? The city of Arizona, the city of Phoenix feels that. They feel sad. And they're like, why are we paying this freaking guy so much money to just take up space on a freaking... I got a white shirt on.
Not anymore.
You bastard. I love this shirt.
Well, go ahead and wait. Let me. Hey. Take this. But anyways, let me get around you. Stay still. Hey, let's walk that way. There's a cat over there. So
Okay, let's talk to this cat right quick.
So episode 1 of Cat Wrangler. No, I'm just kidding. But what else can we talk about? This surely we haven't already run out of things to talk about.
Well, I mean,
Hey, wait, hold this real quick. I'm gonna check the battery level on this. Wait. Lance, come give us a cameo real quick. Come say a couple words of wisdom.
this is our
did this cut out? Oh no, we're still rocking.
Our darling boy Lance.
Yeah. Are y'all filming the new Men in Black movie?
Yes, this is the new Men in Black movie. But we're on our way to get the actual.
I'm assuming the Park Shore podcast will reimburse me for this vintage Far Side T-shirt, right?
The Park Shore podcast. This isn't even my equipment. Okay, but anyways, so one thing that fans of the pod are probably wondering is what's the lore? What's the lore of the podcast? And so, Kason, why don't you go ahead and just catch people up to speed a little bit on like what we've been doing up until this point? Maybe say the past like year or two. Like, who even are we?
Man, we did a lot of stuff.
So,
more recently, kind of working backwards. I think our latest venture has been our concert we had at 19th hole, unless I'm mistaken.
yeah. So, like, I'll break down like a quick little.
We can walk through this Spider-Man 3-esque construction site.
So like, here's like a quick, quick and dirty rundown of like the history of kind of like our little project here. So I graduated college, started LLC, Gore Brothers Media with Kason. Originally, what we wanted to do with it is we wanted to be like a service-based video marketing company. We went through a period where we tried to do cold calling. We offered free videos to countless people. We used to be like the primary people that would shoot videos for House of J. We kind of had a lot of fun getting into like the punk rock video niche. We made a lot of really stupid errors early on. One of the most embarrassing things we ever did was we would film videos we would film videos of artists without asking them, and then we would offer to like sell their own like concert footage back to them, which looking back we realized that this is like mildly illegal. And what else do we like? Let's just I think honestly like a funny thing we could do is just like go over all the things we've done that have not worked, because I think a big part of like our sort of brand is like, hey, trying it all out,
yeah.
putting yourself out there. climbing through this hole in the fence of the construction site
Yeah,
and
go ahead,
sneaking
Lance.
onto. Yeah, go.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
No, hell no.
I don't feel like that's a good idea.
No, it's probably not.
Well, so we talked about cold calling construction companies. We compiled a whole list of construction companies, and we were gonna offer
We
them.
called like 50 companies to shoot like a free video.
Yeah.
They all said no. We tried to get paid to shoot punk rock videos. That didn't work. One of the cooler things that we did is our friend, he did like this independent feature film, and we spent like 2 weeks camping in the woods shooting this film with him. And up until that point in time, that seemed like the biggest thing we had ever done. And it was like a huge learning experience. And I mean, the thing about the movie, and you can ask the friend himself, his name's Eric. The thing about the movie was it didn't even like really get off the ground. Like right now, it's just like a private YouTube video. But we learned a lot during that process.
Yeah.
We learned how to like thug it out on like a really harsh, conditioned set.
Yeah.
We learned.
And we also had probably like 8 hours of behind the scenes footage.
Yes.
And just scattered interviews of the cast.
Yep.
And
And what did we end up doing with that? We ended up creating like a documentary that, I mean, in the words of Eric, was like, more moving than the movie itself. So
well, because I think this was kind of my own experience with making the documentary was that the kind of idea of the movie and the idea of the documentary ran parallel, and I opened it very tongue in cheek with Eric saying, it's a story of these kids who are on their quest to get this treasure, and the weather and their environment doesn't agree with them, and it makes it harder for them, whatever. And
which was a parallel with what actually happened.
yeah, and if you've seen the movie or seen the documentary or the podcast we did about the movie, you can know all about how cold and how muddy and how hard it is to shoot a movie on a boat.
But so essentially what we learned from that is, when you're doing something, when you're making something, you actually have no idea what the meaning of that thing is until it's long past. Like, because in the moment we thought that the most important thing that we were doing was making a movie. In retrospect, we figured out that the most important thing we were doing was bonding with all these other people on set, committing a crime in 3, 2, 1. Oh, holy crap!
Okay. One thing about the movie too is that we didn't have a lot of money. The project was funded mostly by the creator, and there was a few small donations, but I don't know. I'm kind of talking about, but it was independently funded. I don't want to say that, and it's like totally untrue. But it was independently funded. So a big thing about the movie was, we have this scene where we want to have all these extras, or we want to have this big prop or something, and okay, we don't have the budget for that. And so it sucked because the day of, we would have to sit there and rewrite the scene and work our way around with dialogue, and call our friends from our hometown and say, hey, can you be at this ranch in 30 minutes because we're about to shoot the scene and we really need extras, please. And
so long story short, beg.
Okay. No. But it taught us to kind of
be resourceful,
and what we've kind of always preached is like, you don't got to have money, you don't have to have dope equipment, you don't have to have all this crazy stuff. It helps, but figure out what you want to say and what you want to do, and figure out what you can do around that, and
just also don't get caught in the planning phase, and don't get caught trying to like figure out, well, how are we going to do this? Just start doing it, and then learn with context. When you run into a specific problem, then you go searching for answers.
I've been on 2 different shoots. There's usually the shoot where everything is planned out. They have all the props, and they have all the shots down, and they know every single shot they want. And most of the time, those shoots go pretty well, but they are a little bit cold. it's not as fun, and yeah, sure, it's a little bit easier, but the work you're doing, it's kind of done for you already. But I would say the beauty in maybe a shoot like the movie, that S.S. Wayne, was we did kind of I rewatch it and go, man, I remember writing the scene the day of, and like I feel like I and the whole crew had a big impact on the movie because we were able to kind of say in the moment, um, depending on the scene, depending on the situation, we were able to mold it to.
And look, it's the difference between a mass-produced commodity
Mhm.
and something with actual personal craftsmanship. And
Right.
the other day I saw that movie, The Fall Guy, or what was it, the Ryan Reynolds movie? It had cost
Uh-huh.
like $100 million to make, and it had only returned like
Actually, it was Ryan Gosling.
Ryan Gosling.
Yeah. No,
No,
I
no,
think
no.
you're
Yeah,
talking
you're
about
right.
If.
You're right.
You're talking about If.
If I don't care.
John Krasinski.
I'm gonna.
beautiful mind of John Krasinski.
Okay, I'm gonna say this, and it's gonna pretty much fit with every movie that's come out recently. So there was this movie. It cost hundreds of millions of dollars to make. It took a ton of time, and they spent millions and millions of dollars advertising it, and then it turns out it did not even get back a fifth of what was spent on it.
Huh.
Lesson there.
Huh.
Let's just let Hollywood die.
Huh.
I know that's kind of cruel. Okay, what I mean by
I
that.
like Hollywood. I like some of the Hollywood movies.
But like, what I mean by that is, the other day I heard this anarchist saying like, "Well, we need to start empowering people. We need to start giving out checks so people can actually start doing the creative stuff they want to do." I say we do the reverse. I say we make it. I say we make it harder to make stuff. No, I'm being facetious right now. I'm being an a-hole. No, but what I mean is like, stop asking for permission and stop asking for funds and stop asking for this like whole huge team of people behind you. Birth something from nothing, and just like the whole idea behind being creative is that you don't need a team. You don't need hundreds of millions of dollars.
The reward itself, you should not be funded for creating art. The reward itself should be the art.
The making of it. Yeah. Like that's the thing is, I think the whole idea behind like, oh, this movie only returned like a fifth of what was spent on it. Does that not immediately betray the purpose
Any
of
good books in here?
Prince and the Pauper by Mark Twain? One time I found hey, there's a Holy Bible.
Yeah, there's a Bible. The Greater Happiness. Word.
Finding Grace in the Face of
The
Dementia.
Royal Art of Poison.
One time I found a satanic Bible in one of these, I swear.
That's...
Swear to you. And then also I found a treatise of human nature by David Hume, which I then threw out before I realized that years later I'd be wanting to read that book.
No, but I think kind of the whole part of this challenge is that idea of, no, I'm not gonna freaking pay you to write a song. Matter of fact, if you don't write a song, you gotta pay me. Like,
right.
If I do not write a song this week, I gotta pay $20.
Huh? I mean, I don't know. Lance is funny. Lance is just goofing.
Just goofing.
Hey, I want to go to like some of the playground area. Playground. No, but I mean, like, I don't know, like.
All right, enough of this art jibber jabber. Why don't we start talking about best SpongeBob episodes?
Okay.
One of my personal favorites. I'm not gonna say, a specific ranking, but definitely in my top 5 is the Nightlight episode where he can't go to sleep and he has to buy all those lights because he's scared of the dark.
I like the one where he has to write the paper and his house burns down.
I like the one where Gary's like super smart.
Oh,
yeah. I don't even know half the time I don't even remember the context of these scenes. There's just specific scenes that pop into my head and go. I'm like, hey, I remember that. Remember smart Gary.
Really? Okay, real quick. I also just want to say, like, SpongeBob is a perfect example of how something, whenever it just starts out and it has like no real funding behind it and it has no real like notoriety, you could say less resources, it's like better and like truer and like more just like authentic and beautiful.
I think
as soon as something gets like sort of fat and bloated and like.
I think that's a tale as old as time of this beautiful. I mean, you see it with bands, you see it with directors, you see it with everything. Of there's this. They got nothing, and they put out this beautiful piece of work, and then whenever they have all the money and everything to do what they want, it kind of just doesn't feel.
Because they're not hungry anymore. They have nothing more to prove. And do you think it's possible? Do you think it's possible for people to get like a modicum of success and actually stay true to like what it was that they sort of like started out doing? Like, is there any examples of people who actually like really did get some mainstream success and but like still just like were consistent and like continued to sort of create beautiful things? Can you think of like a single example of that? I know that there is some, because it's not like this is like a deterministic process where like anytime something becomes successful, it naturally has to degrade. I think it's just like entropy. I think it's like sort of just the natural state.
I don't want to be. Well, my first belief or my example would be, I think Quentin Tarantino. He was kind of like coming out in the 90s where they talk about like the film festival that Reservoir Dogs like premiered at. There was a bunch of young indie artists that everyone was kind of looking out for, and him and Robert Rodriguez were kind of the only ones who were in that and then continued that success because I don't know, I think that like Reservoir Dogs is great, but I don't think it's his best work. As far as I don't know. What's a band that maybe they're later album? I don't know. The Beatles maybe.
Beatles, yeah, okay. The Beatles are actually a good example because I mean they got better as they went on.
Right.
Lance, what's like a thing that like got better as it went on? Band, movie, like director. Lost. I think that's
Breaking Bad.
Okay, Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad is extremely consistent.
I think Breaking Bad is a great point because I don't have all the facts, but with a lot of these TV shows like The Walking Dead, the first season was great, and I think they thought, oh, we got this freaking cash cow and we can just milk it because it's a zombie apocalypse. It's not really gonna end anytime soon, and I think the greatest plot device in Breaking Bad was Walter White's cancer because. Then some producer can't take over the show and go, actually, Walter White's going to keep on making meth. Because then the audience starts going, oh, I thought he was about to die.
Right.
But Walking Dead, I think it is a perfect example of one of those shows where at the very beginning it was great. And, season 2 kind of sucked. But then it got better. It was still very good. But then I think it just got bloated and there was just I'm just walking.
My socks are wet.
Yeah. But I think Walking Dead is a great example of that.
Let good things die. Let good things die.
Yeah. End it. Even if it didn't, because I think Walking Dead, I think it's such a pressure for it to end on a good note, especially like Breaking Bad, because I mean I think Walking Dead and Breaking Bad were kind of competitors in a sense because they were on the same network, so they're constantly fighting for attention. But Breaking Bad had such a good ending. I think Walking Dead didn't know how they wanted to end, but you can kind of tell towards the end they also knew they should probably end it. And I remember we watched the last episode and it was terrible. I don't even know how it ended, but I think
it's just a shell of its former self.
Yeah, it's just like at a certain point you just gotta pull the plug, man.
Another thing is like another show I can think of is Game of Thrones. A lot of people were dissatisfied at the ending of Game of Thrones, and a big thing with George R.R. Martin. George R.R. Martin tried to kind of contradict J.R.R. Tolkien.
Yeah, J.R.R. Tolkien.
Oh wow, that's very original. J.R.R. Tolkien. He tried to George R.R. tried to contradict J.R.R. And instead of having this universe where there's like good and evil, everything's like morally gray and like there's like no like good or bad. There's just and You know what? You know what
yeah,
happens when there's no like.
that's the best thing a director can do is go, well, I don't know, you decide.
Yeah, and what that is it's total undifferentiation, and it makes everything into a disgusting gray goo. And one thing, if you're like making stuff nowadays, really don't be afraid to just go ahead and say, no, this is objectively true, or this is objectively good. Like, make a truth claim, and don't be afraid to do it. And you know what? If that gets contradicted, like, take back what you said and say, hey, I was wrong about that. But something I just like feel like I have to push back on is this whole like pluralism, moral relativism today, where it's like, well, nothing can be said to be better or worse than anything else, and all ideas are equal. It's like, no, not all ideas are equal. Reality makes that very clear.
We should go down those double slides.
Yeah, they're probably soaking wet.
Touching back on the know when to end it topic real quick. There's a quote from Johnny Ramone, which I think is one of the smartest things or one of the most the best advice I've ever got as far as just creating and really performing or showcasing your art is, he said, most bands have 2 or 3 good songs, okay? And he's not talking about most bands like Led Zeppelin or Van Halen. He's talking about most bands as far as in a scene and in this small area, because he was coming up in the 70s when punk was just kind of starting, and there was a lot of bands, a lot of these young bands who had new ideas, fresh ideas, but they weren't as refined, and so you have these. I think most people do have. Maybe it's a movie. You have 2 really good scenes. If it's an album, you got 2 really good songs, but show those 2 songs, those 2-3 songs. Show those 2 or 3 scenes, and then everything else should be complementing that and retaining the audience's attention. And not and you might have 50 songs, but you got to say, man, let me choose the best 7. And because I think a lot of it is just oversaturation. Because the one thing I hate when I'm watching a movie, when I'm watching a band, is just oversaturation. Because I think the idea is, oh well, maybe I don't think this song's good, but maybe somebody else will. And if they don't think this song is good, maybe they'll think this next one is. And if they don't think either of those, maybe they'll think this next one is good. And it's like, no, you just gotta figure out what you want to say and say it and spruce it up a little bit, add a little bit of detail to it, but don't oversaturate the idea.
And I think part of us doing this whole like creative challenge thing, where I'm doing the writing and Kason is doing the music making, I think part of it is, if you are incapable of, or if you are unwilling to let your ideas or your creations be criticized or scrutinized, or even analyzed, then what you do is you just withhold them, and you say, well, I got this like really great like idea, but I'm just like, I'm not gonna like put it out there because but like creating something is necessarily opening it up to like criticism. Like the act of creativity itself is something that inspires both admiration and fear. Like, if you're bringing something new to the table, people are going to be both inspired by that and absolutely hate you for that. And you just have to be willing to take that risk. Because like literally every single creative person in history has been maligned. They killed Socrates. They killed Jesus. You have to be willing to be misunderstood. You have to be willing to say what is true at the risk of getting in trouble for it.
Yeah.
I say we end it here.